Welcome to Mic'd Up, where stories meet conversations. This is where voices from all walks of life come together to share ideas, experiences, and perspectives that matter. This is where you get to experience what it's like to achieve your endeavors, from facing early challenges to conquering meaningful milestones.
From hurdles to achieving great heights, Mic'd Up brings you people who have built their dreams from scratch, dreamers who dared to start, and doers who kept going. Each story here reminds us that every big success begins with a little spark of determination and belief.
Now let's get into today's podcast with your hosts and special guests right here on Mic'd Up.
To episode 2 of Mic'd Up. You are with our hosts, me, Vedika, and Aaron. On today's podcast, we have Shalin Varghese, a Manipal University alumnus and product leader at Stitch Fix, California. With a career at the crossroads of technology, data, and design, Shalin is driving how AI and personalization shape modern fashion. We're excited to hear his journey and insights on product leadership and the future of tech.
Welcome, sir.
Hey, Aaron.
So, sir, you've spent your formative years at Manipal Institute of Technology. How would you describe your overall experience during your engineering years at MIT?
I think it was pretty formative, like you mentioned. I think it could definitely define quite a huge part of how I am right now. Probably the biggest takeaway for me would be the people I kind of interacted with when I was at Manipal. Less about the courses, less about what I chose in each semester or how much grades I got, but more of the experiences I had with people around me. So yeah, that probably would be my highlights.
So I believe you had a lot of good friends at Manipal, and how was your experience with your friends, and what were the interesting stories at Manipal?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share all the interesting stories at Manipal, but I think most of it kind of involved some kind of routine that we had of hey, waking up in the morning, kind of trying to go and have breakfast together, go to classes, or maybe even miss the classes, go do something else, and possibly try to make up plans for what we're going to do in the weekend, or any days that we don't actually have class. There were also days where you kind of spend all night trying to cram up everything you need to know for the next day's exam, which, funnily enough, there were quite a few of those because I didn't really pay attention too much in class. So there was a lot of very late night studies going on. So, yeah.
I think we both can also relate to that. Very much the same life.
Yeah, I would imagine there's quite a few of that. Yeah.
So have you been a product manager or designer in Beacon and now in Stitch Fix? Can you tell our audience what is basically product design and management? And could you walk us through your journey from being an engineer to working in a product roles and in top companies like Stitch Fix?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't played too much of a product design role. I think in startups, you kind of have to wear a lot of different hats. So in that sense, yes, probably have played a product design role. And it might be worth kind of setting context of what Beacon does or what Stitch Fix does. So for folks who are not aware, Stitch Fix is a fashion tech company, mostly focused on personalization. So what it essentially looks like is, hey, you're someone who really likes to dress well, but you have no idea what's the great trends out there. And you want to kind of offload that decision to someone who actually has a great pulse into the trends of the industry. And you essentially say hey, I need clothes. And Stitch Fix has a lot of human stylists in there within our business. And we get assigned to a stylist. And it's kind of like a human in the loop workflow where the human works with an algorithm that knows you very well to say oh, okay, Vedika, this is what Vedika really likes. This is what she does on a day-to-day basis. These are previous outfits that she has bought. And that essentially means she would like these 4 things. And so the stylist and human stylist essentially curates out of hundreds of thousands of clothes that we have, it tells you, hey, these are the 5 things that you should send to Vedika. And you get a box Vedika at your home, you try it out for up to like a month, and you return the ones that you don't like, and you pay for the ones that you like. And that's essentially the whole business model for Stitch Fix. And at Beacon, it was essentially a mergers and M&A play for small to medium businesses, which means small to medium businesses typically are ones that private equity does not touch. So you can think of your gyms and your landscaping businesses, or your lawn mowing businesses and stuff like that. Everything that you see on this over here in the US, they call it as Main Street businesses. The ones that if you walk through Main Street, you can see along the way. And by mergers and acquisition, it means most of the people over there were trying to sell the business. And our goal was like, hey, how can you take all these businesses, put it on a website? Like imagine there was a website where you can go and search, I want to buy a laundromat. And what does it cost to buy a laundromat? How much profit will I make in the first month? How much of that would go to salaries? How much of that is retained so I can reinvest into the business? And you would be able to make a decision. Okay, yes, I want to buy this. So that's essentially what Beacon was all about. My role as a product manager was because it was a startup, it was very unconventional. I did a lot of walking around, going to different Main Street business, pretending to be a customer and trying to find out who the owner was and try to get them to sell the business to us. And there were very odd times where I actually went into a tattoo parlor, pretended like I needed to get a tattoo, chose the tattoo before they got the tattoo on me. I was like, oh, okay, you're the owner. I don't need to have tattoo anymore. Let's talk about your business. And the goal is to try to get them to list on our platform. And most of my role as a product manager is understanding who my customers are, in this case, there are 2 sides to it. One is the person who is selling the business, and the other is the person who is buying the business. So a lot of it is understanding the person who's trying to sell the business. Why are they selling the business? How can I get them to sell the business? And going through their financial docs, like their profit and loss statements, their balance sheets, and understand how much will this business be valued. So if I go to that tattoo place and like talk to the owner and I'm like, hey, I understand you're like 50 years old. You have 2 grandkids now. You probably want to retire in 10 years. And if you start doing these 4 things, I can probably sell your business for about like kind of 5 million in 3 years. So these are the steps you need to take to sell it in 3 years. And you can retire and spend more time with the grandkids. So understanding that story, understanding how much money the tattoo business typically make, and also being able to convey that story enough so that they kind of list with us, right? And similarly, that's essentially a product manager's role, is understand your client very well, understand what you as a business are going to provide value here. So for example, if that company didn't exist, as in a Beacon didn't exist, technically they can still go and sell, right? Like imagine they put a ad on some classifieds or something and say like, hey, tattoo parlor for sale. Someone else who was reading that classifieds can technically find that and buy it. So there's no value for us unless we provide some value to both people in that party. One is to make it easier so both of them can find each other. And the other being to make it in a way that technology kind of plays a part in it. So you can think of in our platform, there was a place where you could actually see charts of this is the cost as it increases over the next 5 years, and this is the profit that increases over the next 5 years. So that's very useful for both the person who's buying and the person who's selling, because the person who's selling is like, oh, okay, that's what I need to do to increase that chart and make it more attractive to the buyer. So they kind of have that insight. So product manager's role is understand what the customer's pain point is, understand what what's the solution to that pain point that you're providing, and also understand how you can essentially monetize out of it. So in our case, it is, hey, if you sell with us, we are going to take 7.5% of the sale price. So that, let's imagine they're selling for like on 100K or something. So that means $7,500 we take. And that should be worthwhile for them. So whatever value we are providing should be at least be enough for the 7.5%. But yeah, that's mostly the role of the product manager, I would say.
That's really interesting, sir.
Yeah, and I honestly think that the concept of Stitch Fix is just so interesting. Like,
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to. The way we think about it is everyone wants to have that red carpet experience. Like you're walking on a red carpet, and it's like, hey, who styled you? And like whatever Manish Malhotra or whatever that guy's name is, I forgot. But anyways, what are you wearing? And that's kind of like what we're trying to democratize is someone feeling like they were styled by someone who understands the space so well, and it's not okay. I'm wearing shirt and pants and something like that. But yeah.
that's really innovative, sir. So, sir, what initially drew you towards the intersection of engineering and product management, especially?
I think I spent a good chunk of my years in engineering, and I did ran the gamut from like very close to the metal, like working with like pure servers, and then kind of moved into DevOps, and moved into like data science, then moved into like full stack mobile, and so pretty much ran the entire gamut, right? So after a while of solving these problems over and over again, at one point I was talking to my director, and I was like, hey, this is great. I mean, solving the problem seems pretty fun, but it's also like I've done it too many times. And now I want to figure out what is this, why am I solving these problems? And my director told me, yeah, but for that you need to be talking to the customers, right? And I said, yeah, sure, I will talk to the customers. Let me talk to the customers. And not so many words, but essentially what he said was like, hey, you're paid too much to be talking to customers. And by that, I guess you can imagine an engineer of the same level of experience would be making more than a product manager with the same level of experience, because there's a premium on engineering salaries. And so essentially his point was like, you as an engineer, you're supposed to be building the solutions and the product and not trying to find what the problem is. So that kind of made me feel a bit odd. And I was like, no, I think everyone should be talking to the customers. They should be finding the problems, and should not be just delegated to someone who's in the product role. So even if it meant that I had to take a pay cut, I'm like, okay, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go into product because I rather understand why I'm solving a problem rather than just solving the problem over and over again. But yeah, that's the kind of was the leading or inflection point for me, at least, that there was a more interesting role, and it's okay if you're taking a pay cut to go do that.
So what's the major difference between as a product manager and as an engineer? Like basically finding problems and just solving it, and like what's the major difference?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of skill set difference, right? So one of them, engineering, you are kind of indexing a lot on your hard skills, right? Your hard skills of knowing how to code or knowing some specific stack. Whereas in product management, there is a lot about being able to empathize with the pain point or something. So an example would be, let's just take for Stitch Fix, right? Like for Stitch Fix, the pain point would be like, hey, you are let's say you are a working mom and you are living somewhere in Middle America, right? And most of the fashion trends don't happen in Middle America. They happen in coastal cities like New York and San Francisco. Or you can take an India example, like you're like a tier 2 town or something, and most of the trends probably happen in Bangalore, Delhi, or Chennai or something like that, right? And you still are working mom. You have no time for yourself. You're not scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, so you don't know what's Kylie Jenner is wearing or something. I'm not saying they want to wear Kylie Jenner or anything, but like they don't know what's the most in trend at that point. So that is a pain point. Now they can do one thing: either they can be a negligent mom and like okay, I'm going to go scroll on Instagram all the time to figure this out, or they're like, hey, I'm going to quit my job and be a stay-at-home mom, and I'm going to spend most of the time figuring out how to dress in more fashionable sense. Or that they don't want to do either of that. They want to spend time with their kids and they want to go to work. Both of that is true. And they want rather offload the finding the trend part. So that is the problem. right? And as an engineer, I think engineers are kind of wired to go into problem solving really quickly. As in the moment they say like, oh, okay, fine, that's the problem, I'm going to start building. And as a product manager, your role is keep questioning till you go more deeper of understanding why the specific problem happens, to whom it happens, who else has solved this problem outside, and what is so differentiating what's a differentiating solution that you can create from it. So being able to ask all those questions and empathizing with the problem and not jump into the solution, like that's where product manager typically excels in. Because they don't have the technical skills yet, they would not jump into the solutions immediately. But for engineers, like it immediately clicks, okay, this is the solution. And that typically tends to be a suboptimal solution. And you don't want to implement a suboptimal solution. You rather think very well, understand the problem, find the most optimal solution, and then go to the engineers and say, hey, this is the the best solution that you can think of. And then you probably just do that. So that's kind of like does that make sense? Like one is kind of focusing on what problem to solve and how to solve it, and what problem to solve and why to solve it. That is the product manager's part of it. Then the engineers come into the how, as in, okay, you know what problem to solve and why to solve it. Then only when the how comes, that's where the engineers kind of come into the picture. You need to kind of get away from it. Okay. But yeah, that's the difference, I would say.
That's so true.
So, looking back, what would you say was a key turning point in your career?
I think one of the one that I mentioned over the conversation with my director probably is a key turning point too. And I think after that, I kind of went out and one of the things I did after that conversation with my director, I asked him like, okay, fine, what do I have to do to kind of get into the product role? I'm okay taking a pay cut. And he said, oh, you have to do this for 1 year. You have to do this for another 2 years and something. Like he had essentially drew out this like 5-year timeline. And I was like, no, I'm not waiting 5 years for this. Why wouldn't I just quit, go work at a smaller company at that role and come back in a year? And he's like, yeah, technically you could do that. And that's what I did. I quit. I went to a smaller company and did the exact same thing I wanted to do and came back as a product manager. And I think those year or 2 years that I spent building my own company and also working at the startups that I wanted to work, that was quite formative because there were a lot of uncertainty. There was layoffs involved. I got laid off the first company that I was at, and then I joined the second company, and then after that I quit that and decided to start my own company. Raised enough money for that, and after all of those were kind of learning points. And then by the time I kind of came back, I was like, okay, I understand a lot more in terms of what I need to do from a product perspective, but also because all of them were so small companies, you got to play the role of a founder, a CTO, a product designer, a product manager, a salesperson, like everything you can think about. It's you kind of have to wear all those different hats. So that was pretty fun. Also, you got to go through your first layoff because I think that's like a check mark that you have to do in your career, like get laid off once, and then you kind of understand a lot more.
So you've been in the US for a long time. What are some important lessons you've learned while working in the US corporate ecosystem that young professionals in India can take?
Apply in India or
like young professionals who are in India applying in the US.
In the US? Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been. I wouldn't say I haven't been here long enough to have like very complex thoughts on the subject, but I would say if people are like aspiring to come to the US, well, like one thing you have to be, the political climate right now is a bit odd, but at least I imagine it'll gonna get better, or at least it'll change for the better. And the things that you have to realize is well, the age of like this parchment economy of like, hey, you get a certificate or you get a degree and all that are kind of gone. And like, it doesn't matter if you're from IITs or if you're from, I don't know, you get like go through all IITs and get all the degrees, like it still doesn't matter. And it's more of a proof economy at this point, right? You have to show what you have done, and the cost of doing it is so cheap that if you're able to show something really, really wild that you have done while in India, it's very likely that you'll come to the US, right? Because there's a lot of need for people who have high agency, and there's a ton of great colleges in the US. So there's no lack of college, like students who are coming out of it, but there's lack of people who are like very high agency, and people who are very high agency are typically in a spot where they don't have a lot of other opportunities. So if you feel like, if I'm not sure if this is true or not, but if India is like a spot where it's thriving with youngsters who have a lot of drive but don't have any opportunities to go, I would say like tell everyone to start building whatever they want, they feel is like their life's work or that is the biggest problem right now, and show the proof of it. And you will definitely be more likely to succeed if you want to pursue like a career in the US, as opposed to trying to just focus on grades and stuff like that, because the grades are diluted at this point, and even the degrees are diluted because there's so many people with so many degrees, and it's hard to differentiate what is good from bad from purely degrees and grades.
True, sir. So according to you, like as an engineer, where it is better to work in India or in US?
As an engineer, as let's say,
like in the corporate world.
Yeah, I mean, as a software engineer, Silicon Valley is like the mecca, so it's very hard to argue at that point. For hardware, also, I would say US or like Japan or something, right? They are very good in hardware, and they are pretty far ahead in terms of robotics as compared to the US. So if you are in hardware, you probably want to go there. So I think it depends very much on the industry. The biggest value or biggest differentiating factor for the US is what they call it, if you have the drive to do it, you're very likely going to be able to get through it, because there's not a lot of corruption. There's not a lot of favoritism and all those kind of stuff. It's purely driven by free market capitalism kind of thing. I mean, there is some corruption and stuff like that, but it's mostly free market capitalism. So if you and I don't know, Trump's son or something decides to build the same thing, if you have a better product, you will win the market. And unless he knows that he probably would have access to more capital, but if you can build a better product, you still would win. Which I don't think is the same case everywhere else in the world, right? If you actually build a better product, but if you have someone else you're competing with who has an Avasta or something, know the people around you, know the people are in that ecosystem, that other person probably might win, even if you build a better product. So I think that's probably the biggest differentiating factor to me in the US. I don't know how much the corruption and all these different things affect Japan or Europe in a lot of ways. So yeah, I just know from the US perspective, it's still pretty much a free market economy. So a good product would still win if you have the drive to do it.
So you've worked across a lot of diverse environment startups, tech companies, and now as a product engineer, in fact. How do these experiences differ in terms of culture and learning?
You mean like a diversity of the industries that I've worked across, you mean? Yeah. Yes. I think the first company that I worked for was in Bangalore, and it was like a retail analytics company. And I really loved working at that place. And after which, the next company that I worked for was in New York, and we were into running political campaigns. So we ran like presidential political campaigns, like 2016 against Trump. the Republican one. So there's this, I'm not sure if you all know, but there was like a candidate called John Kasich, and he was running against Trump for the Republican ticket. So we worked with him, and most of the role there was, hey, how can you mobilize voters to vote for you? If they're all Republicans, how do you get them to come and vote, right? And that's the biggest problem people solve in politics typically. And which meant like most of the people around me were like poli-sci majors, like political science, right? And they were like easily some of the most interesting people to talk to because they have like so many interesting ideas. And that diversity was awesome because you're not all the time talking to engineers, because engineers have pretty much the same ideas over and over again. And you're talking about technical things, and it's not a lot of fun all the time. But then like you're not put in a group full of poli-sci majors who have ideas about like philosophy, about art, about politics, et cetera, et cetera. So which was a huge change to my day-to-day. And that meant like, going out, getting drinks with them after work, or like, going to the events that they typically go to. So all of that kind of increased my palette of what, in terms of experiences that I typically was involved in. And that's changes like, so that was like first in politics, then it was in fashion. And in fashion also like the same thing, right? You are surrounded by people who very much care about fashion, very much care about aesthetics, very much care about like, design and like, essentially like form over function. And that also changed a lot of my understanding and, to be honest, probably my fashion sense, right? Like, I probably dressed like pretty shabbily before that. And after that, I'm like, okay, fine. I guess you can wear more than just shirt and pants, which I think largely for men is always shirt and pants, nothing new. And there was suddenly you're wearing things that is not just like tied to like your gender role or even what I thought was professional. I probably wore things that I felt were more comfortable and more aesthetically pleasing as opposed to being professional, which was very much welcomed. So that also is like a different environment, right? Like they were very much into aesthetics and were a bit more liberal in terms of what you can wear. And then as you can imagine, then after that, it was like a mergers and acquisition. After that, it was a fintech company. And after that, it was like my own company, which was like in the AI matchmaking space, which is also like a whole different beast in terms of like the clients that you meet and what they're interested in chatting about. So I would say if anyone's like trying to, there's downsides in kind of jumping from industry to industry. Like you don't become an expert in one industry for sure. But I think it has really helped me be able to like connect the dots between two industries, right? I think I do take a lot of information that I got when I was running the political campaigns and the technologies that were used over there into my matchmaking, right? So the matchmaking it's essentially matching humans to humans and understanding how one human can influence the other human and like what attributes actually creates affinity between two people instead of repulsion between two people. So there's a lot of information that bleeds across different industries, which I typically enjoy. But like I mentioned, it comes at the cost of not being an expert on one of the industries.
It's really nice, sir. So product roles often sit at the intersection of technology, design, and business. What skills do you think are the most underrated for becoming a good product engineer?
Being a good product engineer or product manager?
Product manager, I would say.
I think I think being able to like having a really high EQ and being able to understand the pain points of your customers is very important. But I also do think that is very common among product managers. Like they have very high EQ and they are able to understand problems very well and also communicate solutions very well. The part that I feel is missing and going forward is going to be even more important are, this is like kind of tooting my own horn, but not having product managers who understands technical skills is going to be a bad thing. I believe it's becoming more and more important for you to understand what is capable from a technology perspective to be able to communicate what solutions are feasible and also find patterns. So someone who is not technical ever, like has not ever understand the basics of, if you're building a web product, understand the basics of like full stack engineering or like, just a web server, or if you're in hardware, understand like, microchips or something like that, right? Or sensors. Understanding that at a technical level is going to be a huge downside for most product managers, at least in a year or two from now. And that's not to say every product manager would have to know it, but those kind of the managers who understand their technical part is going to be the differentiating factor, and they are going to stand like shoulders above or head and shoulders above the rest of the people who don't understand it. And that doesn't mean everyone has to go learn everything, but if once you get into that industry and you're spent like a year into it or 2 years into it and you're building the product, let's imagine you're building a wearable or something, right? You're building Oculus or Meta glasses or something. You need to understand like where does the camera go? How is that data kind of getting there? How does it go from here to whichever server it's going to? Like understanding those basics is very important. Else you're not going to be a great product manager for that product at least. So, yeah.
So, could you share any example of a project or a product you've worked on that you're very proud of, and what exactly made it successful?
Yeah. I think one of the projects that pretty close to my heart is the startup that I was building, which is called Keeper.ai, which was in the AI matchmaking space. The reason it was interesting to me was because it kind of applied a lot of relationship psychology and technology together, or cutting edge technology at that point together. And the context was like, hey, we were a company that was kind of focusing on long-term relationships, as in like, hey, how do you match people together such that they are it's optimizing for a long-term relationship, as in they get married or they have kids or they get engaged and stuff like that, and as opposed to they go on 5 dates or something like that, right? Which most dating apps kind of are focused on. And we did that. The part of the product that was very interesting was our monetization principle, as in like we didn't charge anyone anything till you actually got into a long-term relationship. As in, when you do get married, that's when you pay us. Until then, you don't pay us anything, right? So then our incentive to actually serve you was to actually get you to marriage, and not for you to meet each other or go on a date or hook up or whatever it is that you're planning to do otherwise, right? So the monetization part was very interesting. The other part was there was like a huge lack of data on what makes two people stay in a long-term relationship. So we kind of had to go through first principles to understand, was it the Big Five personality test, or was it purely looks based, or was it having shared interest, or was it both of them having like similar religion or political affiliations, or what was the thing that actually drove in the end to a long-term relationship? I think that was a great project. It was successful in the sense like we grew from like, we grew to like 300,000 people when I left it. And that was like earlier this year. So I left it earlier this year, and we grew to like around 300,000 people. And that was like all across the world. Majorly was in like New York, Paris, and London. And I think like San Francisco was like 35th in the list or something like that. And India also had like a decent chunk of people who were part of it. And I think being able to think from first principles, solve a problem that everyone's probably faced in their life at some point. And oddly enough, or not oddly enough, was interesting is like they invited us to their weddings. They told us when they had their first kids, like all of that, right? Which was very fulfilling, because you're not just sitting behind this computer screen and you're not building this algorithm that suddenly works. In the end, you're able to see the results that were pretty heartwarming. So, yeah.
So it was indeed a nice idea. So what made you leave the company?
Partly it was realizing that there were some other problems that I really, really liked in the space. And partly also it was me and my co-founder at that time. We were kind of butting heads on a lot of very fundamental values that we had. And it came to a point where we are like only arguing about our fundamental values and not actually building the product. And that's like a bad sign typically, in the sense that you're supposed to like execute really quickly and keep building, because you're kind of competing against like the behemoths in the industry who have a lot more capital than you. So the only thing that's going for you is speed. Like you don't have any tech debt, you don't have anything holding you back. You can constantly just keep building. And we saw that speed kind of reduce, and that after some point I was like, hey, this is not worth the fight there, and you rather continue building. And I felt like there were some more interesting things that I wanted to build. So I kind of like helped them with another round of raising money so that they can kind of get through like the next part, help them find another technical person who can actually solve the problems. And then I kind of like took a step back.
If there were some issues that you could fix and then had the chance to go back to again, like, would you?
Oh, good. Go back to to Keeper itself?
Yeah.
No, I think I typically know where I'm like, provide the most value is like as a cross section of like technology and like product in a lot of ways. I think we had gotten to a point where the next phase would require someone who was less opinionated about the things that they want to build. So even if we solve like the core fundamental values, I think there are like more interesting problems that have come to notice after I left, which I think is a better use of my time than doing that, because it's going to be like a 10-year journey, and you're only going to realize the benefits of it after 10 years. So you need to be like really 100% in it for like the remaining 9 years. And I don't think I would be able to stick around for that long in that space for probably, yeah.
So being a founder, like how did your experience shape your perspective on startups? Like, would you prefer to work on a startup, like would you prefer to work on your own company or like a corporate?
100% my own. Yeah, it's a much more fun environment. It moves much quicker. You probably have a lot of failures, but all those failures, you understand why those were failures. An example would be there would be some decision made in a corporate company, and it might succeed or it might fail, but you have no idea what the reasoning was on how you got to that, right? You don't know why it won, why it lost, and so you have no learnings from it. And in a smaller startup, even if it's not my own company, at least being very much in the room where it happens, you would be able to understand how you got to that position, right? How you got to that decision. And in the future, if you're in a similar position, I'm like, no, we tried that the last time. We tried that when we had to do that. I know what the outcome of this is. So that learning would be more clear to you. And there's also such a fast-moving space right now, like just tech or AI in general, that I think it would be very unfortunate if you miss that train. Like, I think you should dig in deep, like try whatever ridiculous idea that you have right now and fail, and that's okay. But you're not going to probably get a lot of these moments in your life. That's at least right now. Even if it's a hype, that's fine. But there's such a huge opportunity to fail that you should at least give it a try.
How do you approach problem solving while balancing data and business?
Do you mean like how do I build? When do I like take action versus continue to build conviction with data? Or?
Yeah, like your basic problem solving strategy.
Yeah, I think it's different for me versus others who are not technical, I would say. If you're technical, like you know, like what do you can, let's take a problem of, I don't know, what's like a problem that y'all are working on? Let's we can like live role play that one and see what's different about it if I were to solve it. Maybe is there anything that's coming to mind? If not, I can think of something.
So like some daily problems or stuff.
Yeah, or like something you're saying that your friends are solving right now. It's in terms of like they have a startup, or maybe it's like something that you all always wanted to solve. You think, hey, this is a huge problem for me. I don't know why no one's built a solution for this yet.
So like around a campus, it's really difficult. Like our campuses, we've got to go like a long road, and then we come to our campus. So it's sometimes very difficult to get cabs and stuff. So in the main campus, in the main city in Bangalore, we have those Yulu bike. Like it's an electrical bike that we just take. But here we don't have it. So we're thinking that why can't we bring that Yulu bike in around our campus? It's quite easy then.
Right. Yeah, that's a very core problem. So like it seems like in the beginning, first thing you have to do is validate how big of a problem this is. Right. It's quite possible that it's between you and your friends, and no one else actually has to worry about this. So first, understand the scale of the problem. I'm just giving an example of a problem solving path, right? So first, figure out the scale of the problem, and that kind of gives you the market opportunity of hey, how many people are there willing to pay for this? And let's imagine it's 10 rupees to pay for the bike or something, as an example, and you would at least need. You probably need a big enough size of people that are willing to pay for it to actually go to Yulu bikes or something and tell them hey, why don't you put another station there? There's people are going to pay 10 lakhs or something per month if you actually put a bike over there, right? And so first find the size of the problem, and then figure out what's the margins over there, as in how much are you willing to pay? Let's say people who are in, I don't know, KC or something are going to pay 10 rupees, but it is a bigger problem for you all. So you're okay paying 50 rupees, right? So that's a huge difference in price that both people would have to pay. And then the question is okay, fine. You rather put it in, there's more foot traffic in the place you're telling, and people are willing to pay more. Why didn't you just come and put it over here? It's much easier. So if there's a higher, especially if you're going to pay 50 rupees instead of 10 rupees, you actually just need to put fewer cycles, because even if it's a fewer number of people, they're actually making more money per cycle by putting it where you're talking about. And once you have validated the problem and it's big enough, then you have a business case of, hey, I need 50 bikes at this place, and you will get this much money from it. Then you kind of find out who's the actual person you want to solve, who wants to solve it. You can take it to Yulu or something, but also you can just go to a different person and say hey, why don't I just build this myself? Why don't you just do the very non-scalable thing? Put some cycles there. Give them a Google Pay and tell them hey, you send me money, I'll tell you. I will literally hire someone who stands there and unlocks the bike for you. And if you actually give me a Google Pay at that point, right? Buy 50 cycles, put there, hire one person, you have kind of solved the problem. And once you are able to validate that you're making money out of that, you can either actually just build your own company and make money out of it, or you can go and ask Yulu to kind of, take over that spot, unless there is some regulatory reason, as in, this is my adda, don't come here. If you come here, I'm going to have gang fights with you or something like that. Then it's a whole different problem. But as far as you capture that market first, that's the way I would think of it. Try the most unscalable thing possible. That is the easiest thing. And once you're able to solve it in an unscalable way or non-scalable way, a scrappy way, then you have enough data point to take it to anyone in the world to say hey, I've solved this in a non-scalable way. The only thing I need right now is technology, because the whole app and the auto locks and all those different things are all just technology that just removes the human. But you don't have to solve technology problem first. To solve it the problem itself. Technology just can only comes later if you want to increase the margins, as in you can remove that one person standing there, and that's mostly the reason to do it.
Like, so there was another problem where we were thinking of making an app which kind of summarizes like these days we are in many WhatsApp groups, so there's so many messages there. So we make an app which just summarizes the entire conversation.
Yeah, I think that will be huge. I think, if you want a problem, like there's enough WhatsApp groups where people are asking for referral. You I'm not really sure how to constantly answer all the places people work in right now, and like who are the people they're connected to and what companies they work in. So if you have a graph of everyone, what companies they work in and wherever their first degree connections work in, and that's somehow in a WhatsApp group, anyone asking for like, hey, do you know if we have a referral to, I don't know, Cisco? Imagine a bot could answer it much faster than actually waiting for someone to figure out if they know someone from Cisco. There's a huge opportunity like in being able to solve these small problems. And I think it's extremely cheap to solve right now. So even if it doesn't make money, I think it's a proof of work. And if people want to, in the future, you want to interview with WhatsApp, you can just show that. Like, you can show like, look what I built. And that's a huge proof of work.
So what's one piece of advice you could give young founders trying to build startups, trying to solve problems?
I think one of them that I've noticed is I think India is still like a huge market, and don't jump into just solving for US immediately. Understand where your strengths lie, and what's differentiating factor about you. Like if you're sitting in India and trying to solve for a customer in the US, you're probably not going to be able to outcompete another 19-year-old sitting in the US and building for the same customers. They have access to the US customers, you don't. So I understand like the pull to solve for a market who pays a lot more. Right, I understand that, but you should also know what is differentiating about you, right? India has a huge population; it's a tremendously growing economy. You should use that to your advantage and not try to create for people who you have no connections with, right? Unless you are willing to pay money, come here, talk to all the customers in person, which is all like a tremendous waste of capital because you'll be competing with that person who's sitting in his dad's garage and then going and talking to the same people, right? I would say find a differentiating factor in terms of geography and skill set, and use that to your advantage for sure. And this is very common in the founding circles, but yeah, do scrappy first. Don't worry about raising money and stuff like that. Do very scrappy. And then after that, you'll be able to scale after that.
Being an investor, what do you look for before investing in someone else's company?
For me, it's more about firstly, the industry, like how interesting it is to me. Like, do I think it's going to be significantly different in the next 5 years or something like that? And secondly, would be the founders themselves, right? How much do I believe in the founders that they would be able to execute? An example would be, I think I had some folks who had come to me about building something in the music industry, right? They wanted to create a platform where you can connect DJs or musicians to like events that needed to be played. And I was like, yeah, that's interesting for me because I like music and I like events, and so even if they're not able to have a great solution to it, I know that's a good problem to solve, and I was interested to hear more. And then after that, then the question was like, hey, would that person be the one to solve it? And these people were from the music industry. They knew the industry very well. They knew the problem, so they had connections. So they have figured out the distribution of it. So even if they have a shitty product and they have the great distribution as they're connected to the people who they want to sell to, they would be able to execute it. On the other hand, if someone who was, I don't know, they were a math nerd or something, and they were trying to solve something in the music industry, I'll be like, sure, there is some overlap between math and music, sure, but I don't think that's what is the problem you're solving here. How would you actually go talk to these people? You would have to. They are like people in the music industry, or even like, let's say, imagine even DJs. They are very, very particular type of people. They would only gel with other people who have their vibe and have their I don't know, their language or their ethos and stuff like that. Someone from like who is very much into math and trigonometry or something like that, or very high IQ, but it's not able to speak the language of someone who is a DJ or be able to appreciate their music, you probably wouldn't be able to sell to that person. So understanding if they have the distribution sorted would be the second thing, but the first thing probably would be my thesis, like, hey, I do think the music industry is going to change the next 5 years, or I do think the real estate industry is going to change the next 5 years. So those are the things that I first would index on. The second would be, does the person actually have interest or have connections in that industry to sell?
So what is the right age for investing as an individual?
Oh, like angel investing in like startups?
Yes, sir.
I don't think there's a right age. If you have capital, like in the end, it just comes to capital, right? Like, do you have the capital to expand into startups or something? You might as well like put it into an ETF or the stock market or something. Like, why are you going and putting it into startups? If you have the capital, let's say your dad has a lot of money and they're like, hey, here's 10 crores or some shit like that, and go do what you want with it. You even if you are right at college, I think you should invest. The issue, partly because VCs or just angel investing is getting younger and younger, as in people who are in college, like people who are 19 years old, have a huge social circle, right? Like they have a huge social circle and they have connections into like the smartest people coming out of their own college or some other college, as compared to a 40-year-old VC who might be a billionaire, but it's very hard for them to connect to who is the smartest person in college, right? So you have people who are young have a huge benefit in investing, doing angel investments, and I'm pretty sure there's like an angel investment club or something in Manipal too, right? Yeah. So yeah, you have a connection, you have a distribution that even like, I don't know, we know the Costa doesn't have, right? Like, so there's a huge differentiating factor for you. You probably have lesser money than they have, and you have lesser understanding of or taste into like, hey, what is the biggest problem to solve for sure. So if you really, really want to do it, I would say do it as early as possible. Like, start the angel clubs, be the president of it, have connections with the right people, constantly go to the events, understand what are the biggest problems to solve. But over time, it's possible that you will realize that you don't have enough information to make good decisions. And at that point, you might want to either go back into the industry, build something for yourself, because that's when you notice the problems a lot more. Because else the only problem you're going to notice is how hard it is to invest. And then you're going to only build products that are be into angel investment. Whereas if you go into the market and you work for another company or you start your own company, you automatically notice different problems. And that's the biggest thing, right? Like being able to notice what are the biggest problems to solve. And that's why you kind of notice when folks are younger, the first app they're going to build is going to be a dating app, 100%, because that's the biggest problem they have faced at that point is dating. Like, so people are only going to build for problems that they face. So that is like the downside of investing very early, but I don't think there's like a specific, I'm sure there's data on like, hey, people who have invested in each like 20s to 30s or 30s to 40s, like which one actually have made biggest returns. Pretty sure there's a data on that for sure. But I don't think it's concrete enough that you should be deterred to not invest till you're in your 30s or 40s. Earlier you can do it. That's completely fine. It'll kind of give you understanding of the safe structures and what is the portfolios that you have, how do you create those different portfolios and all those different things. EQ plays a huge part, not just IQ in being an angel investor. So if you're young and have a great connection of builders, you should at least think about it and give tiny checks at least.
What do you think is the best way to learn investing? Someone who does not know much about it.
Other than the early courses and stuff, the best way is to write the small checks, right? Learn and fail. And obviously, again, this is all still dependent on you having some kind of disposable income that you can give away for sure, right? So let's imagine you do have that. Invest in your friends, invest in your family, invest in people who you have high trust in, because it's possible that you're not great at gauging a good idea from a bad idea yet, but you're at least able to gauge good people from bad people, and you at least invest using those. And over time, you kind of while doing that process, you kind of get to know okay, these are the legal terms, these are the benefits, these are the downsides, and you kind of go and meet other angel investors in other colleges or very seasoned ones outside. And that kind of gives you a lot of reps. And over time, your gauge would not just be about good people and bad people, but about good idea and bad ideas, and good industry and bad industry, and et cetera, et cetera. All those things kind of build over time. And to be fair, I'm not a really prolific angel investor or anything. I like talking to founders. If I see something that is very interesting, I probably would invest. Otherwise, I would just be kind of an advisor role to them and just mostly provide whatever technical understanding that I have about the problem.
So, sir, fun question. If you would go back to your college days, what would you do differently or improve for this kind of career path?
What would I do differently? Not really sure. I think I probably would spend more time with my friends for sure. I do think the network that you're going to build in Manipal is very, very useful. We are all over the world. I think on average, at least people from Manipal have higher IQ. Certainly EQ. IQ, I'm not really sure, but pretty sure people in IITs are have pretty high IQ. But at least the folks that I've met, they're not super fun. And the folks that I've met from Manipal, even if they're not from my batch, they're always fun to talk to. I feel like I can trust them. I think that does play a huge role in being able to create community and being able to understand wherever you go in the world how to get your foot off the ground. I would say spend more time. If you have a lot of good relationship and trust in the people you are with right now, and you're really interested in entrepreneurship or something, go start building something with them. Right? It's I don't think you're going to get a better environment to do it right now, that you're all huddled up in this one town, really away from, I'm pretty sure not everyone's from Manipal, right? Everyone's from somewhere else, but you're all huddled in this concentrated village in Karnataka, and you're with other people who are similarly smart and interested in similar things. You're not going to get a lot of opportunity to build something. And don't take things too seriously. Just have fun. I don't think anything that they're going to do now is going to be formative, as in you can't go back on it. So I would say fail as much as you can, and that's okay.
I had this question. If you were not where you are in life right now, where do you think you would be?
I'm not sure. Let's see. I were not here. I don't know. I mean, it's possible that I didn't ever leave India and come to the US. Possibly, right? I was in Bangalore. I could have probably stuck around, and yeah, I'm pretty sure at some point I would have left because I do kind of tend to get restless around the same spot for a long time. So it's possible that I would have left and gone somewhere else. But yeah, I don't think there's a lot that I've thought of in terms of like, is there a different life that was meant for me or anything? I think this seems like the it seems like the most ideal timeline for me. So all other timelines seem much worse for now. So.
So have you thought of starting off your own design or something with design and tech? Combine some startup?
Yeah, multiple times. I think it's at least building something on the side. And the question is about, am I able to reach distribution? And once I'm able to get that distribution, then it's worth quitting my job and going all in on it. Until then, just keep building, because the cost of building is so cheap. You can both do your day job and build on the side, and that's completely okay.
How do you see AI and data shaping the future of product engineering?
I think it's going to be, like I mentioned, it's going to be very important that people are going to have to be a lot more technical. The things that were considered quite important to be a product manager, for example, it could be like, hey, you need to be really great at writing product requirement docs or something. I don't think that's going to be super important. I know like a lot of people are like, hey, no, that's my super strength is like being able to write great product requirement docs. I'm not sure how that's going to be a huge differentiating factor going forwards. You're going to have to be able to do something else that's really, really good. Also, I'm biased because I don't write really great PRDs. I'm a technical person. I'm able to think about the solution after I reach a certain level of depth. And once I reach that depth, I'm like, hey, it's easy. It'll take me another 3 days to do more user research, or it'll take me 2 days to build the actual product. So why wouldn't I just go and build a product and see if it fails rather than go and do user research more? But that's not the case for most product managers, right? They would have to do another 3 days of product research because they have to go sell it to engineers, and they would have to sell it to their directors that this is a good idea to solve. I personally don't have to solve that because I can build it myself. So that's like a difference in being a bit more technical, that you can just go and build it. Why would you wait getting more data on this? I'm not sure if that answered the question, but honestly, I could be completely wrong. I would imagine the whole org chart kind of changes. It's very likely there are no engineering managers. Very likely there are no product managers. It might be just go directly from the CEO to the engineer itself. Who knows? It could all very much change. And I'm here for that. I think it's a good thing that it changes.
So lastly, I would like to ask, what message would you like to share with students who dream of working in a global tech company or build their own startup or just make it big in life?
Yeah, I would say don't go join a global tech company and build your own startup is probably what I would tell. And I mean, that's a bit too far-fetched. There are companies that are doing something really, really great, and you need a lot of capital to do it. Like if you want to, like all my friends who are working at like Anthropic and OpenAI, I've gone to their offices, I've been to their parties. It's extremely, extremely intelligent people. Like they're talking about things that would probably change the world in the next week. And that's a wrong statement. If it's like a frontier company and they're solving a really, really important problem, I don't know, the next rocket to Mars or something, I think you should go and be there and be part of that, the conversation. Or if they're trying to build a new, let's say, a new studio that creates the new media or something, a new media company or something, right? So media is kind of broken. And if you're going to create a new technology-enabled media company, you should go be there. I think media companies are a huge, huge very, very powerful right now. And if you're able to create a new one or be part of one that is rising, you should be definitely be part of it. But in the end, I would say just see what is like extremely interesting or piquing your interest this week, and see if it's still interesting to you next month. And if it still is, I would say go join it. And what's the worst that can happen? You waste like a year of your life, but you get a lot of understanding from it, and get paid at the same time. So it's not too bad. But if you do feel like you have found your life's work, or you found something that is very unique, I would say go and build it. Especially if it's your life's work, like don't leave it for some other time. Like start building now, even if it's small. And even if it takes 5 years for it to take off the ground, I think definitely spend time on it. If you have that conviction, which is a good thing.
It was really nice talking to you, sir. We got to learn a lot from your journey and experiences. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today.
Thank
Of course,
you.
thanks.
For your valuable time.
Sure, Vedika. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, no, it was great. It was great meeting you all, and I appreciate that you all are doing this. I think this is very important that people have kind of a visibility into what people are doing that is not necessarily like in a corporate world or something unconventional, right? So I would also encourage you to go talk to people who are doing something very, very unconventional from Manipal, right? They are living in an island, building their own country or something. I have no idea, but go talk to them, see what they learned and how Manipal kind of changed that for you. I think that would be quite useful too.
Sure, sir.
Awesome.
That's it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Bye.
you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into Mic'd Up, where founders share the real stories behind building their dreams. Today's talk was truly insightful and was packed with lessons of growth, creativity, and the power of persistence.
Stay tuned for more such conversations on inspiring journeys and bold ideas that shape the world around us. We'll be back with more fun, more lessons, and more inspiration, exploring what it truly means to dream, build, and believe. Until then, keep building, keep believing, and keep creating your own story.